Hi, everybody. I'm Kriston. I'm alcoholic 7/21/21. So I just celebrated 4 years, and that is wow. I moved my feet, but God made me a path. So before we start, I like to get in my way a lot. I don't know if y'all can relate to that. No? Okay. And so I'm just going to invite God into my head so that hopefully he comes out of my mouth instead of me, because I can wreck a thing or two. So y'all give me just a second. Okay, so I thank you, Kenny, for asking me to come speak. I love the sound of my own voice. So I'm super excited to be up here and tell y'all my story. Somebody telling me their story at one point is why I am here and why I stayed here. And so my purpose tonight is just to hopefully say one thing that helps one person in this room stay sober just one more day. That's my goal. So if I don't do that for you, call your sponsor. So I'm going to tell y'all what I was like, what happened, and what I am like now. So everything started for me pretty early. I was born to very, very different people. Let me tell you how they met, and this will kind of set the precursor of who I am today, because I'm very much 50-50 of these folks. They were at a dance hall, and my dad and his two best friends, they're watching this really beautiful woman and this other man dance. It's a country western bar. And my dad's two best friends are like, we dare you to bite her on the butt while she's dancing with that other man. And my dad, being my dad, was like, no problem, I got this. So my mom is dancing with this other man, and he goes up and he crawls across the floor through all these other people dancing, gets over there and bites her on the rear end. The man that she was dancing with was not happy about this at all, right? And he's, bows up and, how big a boy are you? And anyway, so my dad's like, no harm, no foul. Let me buy y'all a drink. So he goes to the bar and he pulls money out of his pocket. And my dad had this habit of balling up his money. So anytime he got change, it could be 100 or 50, whatever. Anytime he got change, he would crunch it into a ball and put it in his pocket. And my mom sees all these little balls of money go flying all over the floor. And she's like, oh, a way out. Because they live in this tiny little town. And my mom, she's not supposed to be in this tiny little town. She's not supposed to be a farmer. She's supposed to be highfalutin, fur coats and diamonds. And this is what this my dad is going to get her out of this, right? That's what she sees. And this is her words, not mine, okay? So anyways, this is how they meet. She goes off to college. She's there about 6 weeks or so, maybe. And my dad's like, come on home, honey, marry me. Let's live this beautiful life together. And so she does. And my dad, I'm not going to call him an alcoholic, but, I think he probably has some qualifiers there in his life. They get married, and my dad's gone a lot with friends, and he's drinking, and mom's at home. She gets pregnant with me, has the baby. Dad's still out hunting, fishing, drinking, all these things. And she just feels really lonely. And then there's a night that they get into an argument, and that was like the end of it. So she leaves, and now she has a way to get into this fur coats and diamonds world again. And she does. And so my dad is duct tape and baling wire. Mom is fur coats and diamonds. And I'm very much those two things. I work in the oil field. I'm out hot, sweating, working on rigs all day long. But then I get home, I shower up, put on my Tory britches, and I run out and I go do meeting stuff, So I'm a mix of these two people. But being split between these two people, when I'm with mom, I have to be this way. And when I'm with dad, I have to be this way. So I'm constantly trying to keep up with who am I supposed to be to make these people happy. And I don't know where that came from in my childhood, but I always felt like it was maybe not like a responsibility, but I felt like it was, I needed to be the kid that they wanted. With my dad, it was a little more natural. I loved being outdoors. I loved hunting and fishing. I loved, catching frogs and riding my bike. And I loved all those things. With my mom, it was, she's chasing this lifestyle, right? And so she, being a single mom, not having great jobs, I would go a lot of places with her. And, we were at cocktail parties, and I was in the really pretty dress, and I was just sit down in the corner. You can have some hors d'oeuvres, but you're going to be really quiet. And when mommy's ready to go, we're going to go. So that was my childhood with mom is, shh, be heard, be seen and not heard. With dad, it was rough and tumble, be a kid, get muddy. It was two different worlds. And then with my mom, she's chasing this dream, and she wants to be self-sufficient. So anytime she gets a job opportunity, we pack up, we go. So from kindergarten to high school, I went to 27 different schools. So I never had that like stability or that friend group or that comfort. So I kind of became this person that never met a stranger in my life. And it's a great skill to have today because I meet a new stranger every single day. And I'm really good at it. And I feel like I have a great personality. So there's probably some people that'll disagree with you. But we're not gonna worry about that. It's past my nose. So, where was I? I got a little lost. That's okay. So going in these schools, like I always had to I felt like I always had to kind of conform to fit in what the immediate friend group is, because I had it in my head that I'm not going to be here very long. So who are the first folks that talk to me? Those are the people I'm gonna be friends with, because I know I'm not going to be here long, and I want to have friends while I'm here. So that's what I did over and over. I finally got to my sophomore year in high school, and I drank before. I'd used drugs before. I had a brother that was. Can I talk about drugs? Okay, this is part of my story. Alcohol is definitely my problem. The whole thing, anything that changes the way I feel is my problem. We can throw food, sex, whatever in there. But we're here to talk about alcohol and drugs. Okay, so alcohol mostly. So I had a brother that was. I'm skipping around a little bit. We're gonna go back a little bit to around age 9. I had a brother that was 6 years older than me, and he was getting ready to go to his first high school party, and this is over at Dad's house. At Mom's house, I'm the only child. With my dad, I'm the only child. But this is 2 stepbrothers that my dad married a lady, and she had 2 kids. So he's 6 years older, and then I have another brother that's a year older. And me and my younger brother are like pesters. We're the worst little brother and sister you could possibly have. Like if you want to do anything private, good luck. And that's probably a story with most people. But anyway, so he gets ready. He's going to his first high school party. He's so excited. I'm 9. My other brother's 10. And he keeps trying to sneak out, and we keep busting him because we're awful. And he would go to bed, and we would just like sit and wait on the floor, like peeping through. Y'all know those little shutter doors? So his bedroom had those shutter doors, and we would peep through, and you could barely see through the blinds. But if we saw him moving, we'd bust him up and be like, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" And so he's tried to sneak out multiple times this night. We keep busting him. He gets it through his head that we're not giving up. And he's like, "Fine, y'all can go with me." So he takes us to this party. And this is my first like real drinking experience. I'd had beer before this, going to fetch beers for dad or whatever. And, but this is the first real one. So we get to this party. And I still remember this kid's name. His name's Brent. My stepmom had teddy bears on the fireplace, and he lit those on fire. So it's really hard to forget that person. It was awful. We were horrible kids. So, anyway, so we get to the party, and Brent opens the door, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why would you bring your little brother or little sister with you?" And he's like, "They wouldn't let me out of the house." I mean, he's like stressed out, his eye bugging out, and is like flailing his hands, and it's obviously really serious. And so Brent's like, "Fine, just come on in. Let's stick him in the corner." And everybody's good, right? So for about 30 minutes, this is what we do. We're just sitting in the corner, and we're just like kind of like peeping on everybody and trying to be quiet so we don't get kicked out. And then a few of them have this great idea that we could be entertainment. So they're like, "Okay, so let's duct tape Mad Dog 2020 to my hand, duct tape mine and brother's hands together, and we're going to put OE, 40 OE in my other brother's hand. And we have to finish these before we can do anything." So we're 9 and 10, we're little kids. So a whole thing of Mad Dog 2020 and a 40 ounce is like, that's kind of a big deal for some little kids. So, but we drink them, we get them down, and they're like, oh my God, it's so much fun. And we're laughing and having a good time. And then we get home and it was not a good time anymore. We start feeling sick. We get in the bathroom and start throwing up. We're like pushing each other's heads out of the way because we only have one bathroom in the back side of the house. Can't go into the other one because stepmom and dad are asleep and we'll get in trouble. So then my dad wakes up because he's in the oil field when I was a kid. He wakes up and my older brother's like in front of the bathroom door and he's like, I don't feel good, but I got this. And my dad's like, something's off because you don't ever protect them. You don't ever try to be like, oh, I'm the caring big brother. He's like, I'm going to abandon them as fast as I can. That's the normal MO. So dad is like, get out of the way. Let me see what's going on. So he walks in there. It smells like alcohol. My dad's pissed. And that's like my first experience. And after that, we would like sneak my stepmom's fuzzy navel or little pina colada wine coolers or something like that. And then my brother would hide weed in we had these trees in the center of our driveway and like leaves would collect around them. And so he'd hide his weed and his peppermint schnapps there in the center of the driveway. And so we'd sneak that stuff and put water back in it. And he'd be mad because it tastes like water when he went to go get drunk. So, we're interesting kids. This is all happening really young. Fast forward to high school, I get my sophomore year. I'm finally at this school that like, I'm going to stay here for a few years. But at this point I have a fairly decent drinking problem. I have a car. I'm just turned 15. I'm like one of my only friends that has a car. I'm working for my mom. She had a cell phone store, and this is when cell phones are like kind of first becoming popular. I'm 42, so there's that. So cell phones are getting cool and they're getting affordable, and instead of just the business person having a phone or whatever, like it's becoming like more of a family thing. Like we can get one for our kid or something. And I'm in high school, so I'm like, hey, if you and your brother and sister and then your parents get a phone, like I can get y'all this much money off of this whole thing. So I was one of the top salespeople in my mom's little cell phone store because of all these kids in high school. And, I'm walking around with my little tiny, like, flip razor. You remember when it was from the big giant brick phones to, like, the little flip razor and the bag phone in the car? Like, you were really cool if you had a phone in your car. Like, that was awesome. Today, like, every car has a phone. It's just, where my status go. So, anyway, so I'm selling all these phones. I'm making anywhere from, like, $5,000 to $10,000 a month. That's a lot of money for a 15-year-old. I get a lot of friends really fast. I pay for everything. I pay for our dinner at Chili's. I'm paying for our alcohol. There's a guy that works at the store part-time, and he works for Budweiser in the warehouse. And so I call him at midnight or 2 a.m. I'm like, hey, we need some alcohol. And he's like, okay, no problem. So we meet him at the Budweiser warehouse, and what it would cost $20 at the store cost us $100. He's not trying to lose his job and not make any money off of it, but we keep him in, pretty good spirits with all the extra cash we're throwing his direction. And this is kind of how high school goes. And at a certain point, I remember getting a big gulp at 7-Eleven and filling it halfway with Dr. Pepper and then filling the rest away with Wild Turkey. And this is my normal day. What's crazy is I'm a straight A student. I'm varsity, every sport except for tennis. I don't know why people play that. I'm fellow Christian athlete club. I'm PALS, which is like this thing that your classmates vote you into to be like part of the leadership of the school. I have 500 kids in my class, and there's 25 of us in PALS. I get voted into that. I'm in everything. I'm in yearbook, and I show up for all this stuff. I'm drunk, but I'm showing up for all this stuff, and I go to take drug tests for athletics and stuff, and they just kind of sweep it under the rug because I was a good athlete. And just some of this stuff blows my mind today because it just blows my mind. I could have been stopped a long time ago, but my life wouldn't be what it was, and I wouldn't have the experience I have today to share with somebody else. So fast forward more, I moved to Austin. I'm drinking there. I before I moved to Austin, I spent a few years. I had a really bad problem with heroin and meth, And, I'd get really high on meth, and I'd be like, well, I'm a little too high. I should probably smoke some heroin. So then I start nodding out over here. So I'm like, I'm getting a little sleepy. I should, so this is what I did for like almost 3 years. And I had a friend that would call over and over, move to Austin, everything's gonna be so much better. You can get away from the drugs, move to Austin. I'm like, okay, because drugs are my problem. And so I moved to Austin, and I'm like, I'm a functioning great citizen now. I just smoke weed and drink, and that's it. I end up homeless. Slept in my 1986 Nissan Stanza wagon. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that car is cool. Okay. It has these doors on it, and you just open up both of these doors, and the Austin breeze just comes through there. And being homeless isn't so bad as long as you have like some mosquito spray and some wipies. You're pretty good. So that's one of the times I end up homeless. I always had like 2 or 3 jobs. So how I ever ended up homeless, I lost a car at one point. Like, I have all this money, like my whole life. I've always worked my ass off. But sorry, we're not worried about that either. Okay. I'll still try to keep it somewhat clean. I try to respect the podium. You know what I mean? So, there's a whole bunch of people that stood here before me and saved some lives. So I try to respect the podium for them. But I have this wild, fast and furious life, and that, money's not a problem because if I need it, I just go get another job. And, at no point do I ever meet anybody sober. At no point do I ever meet anybody that says, hey, I think you have a problem. Like, everybody I'm hanging out with has all this stuff too. I'm definitely the one that everybody ends up babysitting. I'm definitely the one that doesn't just go out and have a few drinks and go home. I'm out until I just can't be out anymore. I drink until I pass out. I don't say, hey, I think I need to go to bed. I just drink until I'm unconscious. I moved back to Midland, and I was told I'd never have kids, and so I didn't really, I don't know how to say this, I didn't really worry about having a child, if that makes any sense. So I'm dating somebody. I don't really like this guy, but I don't dislike him either. I was just bored. And it's not even bored. The truth is I'm looking for another way to change the way I feel. So that's the truth on that part. So I see this guy twice, and I've gone home to visit my mom. I'm training. I was a chef for 20 years, so I'm training at this new restaurant that I started working at. And I go home to visit my mom, and we get into a little fight. I'm driving back, and it's raining, and I'm just I'm at this point where I don't know who I am. I don't know how to make people happy. I just lost my dad. And my dad was probably my best friend. And I'm crying so hard. I have to pull over, and I'm like, God, just show me I'm on the right path. He's hilarious, because I get back to the hotel, and this might be TMI, but I'm my boobs hurt. There's all these weird things going on in my body. I don't know what's happening. I'm extremely emotional, and I'm there's no way that I'm pregnant. There's no way. Because for 9 years, 3 different doctors was you'll never have kids. I'm okay. So I'm I'm going to go to Walmart and grab me a test just in case. So I go to Walmart, get me a test, come back. It's positive, and I was it's a bad test. So I go back and I buy the 3-pack. Take 2 of those. Both of them were positive. I'm going to save this 3rd one for the morning, because there's no way that these are right. And they say you should do your morning pee, because that's really potent with this pregnancy hormone, right? So I take another one in the morning. I'm oh my God, I'm having a baby. Oh my God, I'm pregnant. I'm 30 years old. I just started this job. And I'm the boss is going to be so mad at me. How did this happen? I don't even like this dude. So I call my mom, and my mom's well, are you going to have it? And I'm I'm 30, dude. Yeah. If I was 16, this would be a whole different conversation, but I'm 30. I'm super responsible. I can't not have this kid. So, that was never my plan. I never wanted to get married. I never wanted to have kids. I had a job waiting for me in Italy. I was going to go cook. I had a place to live over there. I was just going to go cook. I was going to eat spaghetti and meatballs, drink a whole bunch of wine, hang out with a bunch of really good looking Italian men. And this just, my plan was just like, poof, gone. And so, I end up getting convinced by my family that I need to marry this man, that my baby cannot be born out of wedlock. And I was like, it's like 2013, we're fine. Like, we don't have to get married anymore. That's not the rule. But anyways, my family just wouldn't give up on it. So eventually I'm like, okay, I'll marry this guy. So like 3 days later, they have Tool and an arch and a pastor, and have invited everybody and made hamburgers and baked beans and potato chips, and I'm getting married. So I get married. This was a terrible decision. We were married for like 8 years, and he was very physically abusive. That marriage ended in a gun being held in my face, and I was like, all right, I'm out. But a month before, this is why I tell this story, because this is the catalyst for me getting sober. A month before, he had just like beat the snot out of me, and it's like 4 a.m. Him and our friend down the street, they're a married couple. They both work in the oil field, my husband at the time and this man. It was like 4 a.m. and he leaves and sees that this other guy's truck is running. So he goes down there and he's bragging about what he just did to me. So he leaves and he goes to work. Well, the other guy comes to check on me. And when he comes to check on me, he's hugging me and asking me if I'm okay and showing all this sincerity. And I felt really safe for the first time in a really long time. And I made a bad decision, and I decided to enter into an affair with this man. I'm hanging out with his wife and drinking with his wife almost every single day. I've never been a cheater. I've never had anything. I've been cheated on, but I'd never cheated on anybody, especially with somebody that I knew that was married. And this relationship went on for 9 months. A month after this incident happened, a month later is when my husband pulled the gun on me. And I got out of that relationship. I went and pressed charges. I had everything on video camera. So I went down to the police, pressed charges, and we separated. My drinking at this point is from the time I wake up, which is super early. I would wake up really early, shaking, feeling sick, and I would immediately start drinking. I would take my kid to school. I'd come home, drink some more. I was working at a restaurant. I was a general manager of a restaurant, and my bartenders would make me drinks. So I would drink all day, and then I would get off work and I would go pick up my kid, and I would stop and I would get my twisted tea. Sorry. And I would go buy my handle of Tito's, and I would go home, and in between each tea, I would have a shot of Tito's, and this was how the rest of my night went until I would pass out. And then I'd wake up about 2 or 3 hours after being asleep, and I would drink some more because I can't make it through the night without shaking and feeling sick. And then I would go back to sleep for a little bit and sleep 2 or 3 hours, and I'd wake up again, and it was just this was my day. It just kind of blows my mind sometimes. So one night I'm over at my I say my friend, she's not, I didn't treat her like my friend. I'm over at the wife of the man that I'm having an affair with. I'm over there drinking with her, and she gets to the point where she's ready to go to bed. I'm still partying. I forget my phone, and I walk back to my house, and I'm like, oh my God, my phone. And so I go back, and she's gotten into my phone, and she's finding stuff out. She finds out. She opens the door and just right here. She was really angry, And I felt like the smallest of the small. I felt like I deserved everything that just happened. That she whooped me pretty good. I had a broken nose, 2 black eyes, broken ribs. At no point did I swing at her because I just didn't feel like I deserved to. I didn't feel like I deserved to defend myself. I get home. She kept my phone. She decided she was going to keep my phone. So I go back home and I get into my computer because I'm going to turn my phone off and find my iPhone, whatever. I'm going to turn it off and make sure that, nothing else can happen with my phone. So I open my computer and she's texted like 20 friends and family. My grandma, my mom, my uncle, my couple of best friends, everything that's happening, screenshots of conversations, pictures, all sorts of stuff. And I get to this point where I concede. I'd never thought about suicide before. And at this point, I just was miserable. I just gotten myself into this miserable situation and I just didn't feel like going on. So my daughter gets up. It's like probably 5:30, 6 in the morning. This is the part where I get I'll try to keep it together, but my daughter wakes up and I know that I'm about to kill myself. So I decide that I'm just gonna do the best I can to give her the best last moments with me. I went and made her breakfast. I made her French toast and scrambled eggs and sausage. And I sat there and watched her eat and talked to her. Sorry. I turned on one of her favorite shows when she was done with breakfast. And I sat there and snuggled her because this was the last time that I was going to hold her. She was pretty happy, so I decided to go back in my bedroom and I put my pistol in my mouth. And right as I'm about to pull the trigger, there's a knock on my door. Obviously I didn't want to die that bad because I pulled that pistol out of my mouth and I went and answered the door, and it was my neighbor who I'd been talking through the fence like Mr. Wilson for like 3 years. Almost 3 years, and every time I talk to him I'm wasted, and our conversation is always very surface level. And he says, "Kriston, I don't know why I'm here, but God told me to come knock on your door." And he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." It doesn't look like I'm okay. I have blood like running. I mean, I'm jacked up, you guys. I look like I've been hit by a Mack truck. And I'm like, "No, I'm not okay." And he said, "Does alcohol have anything to do with this?" And I was like, "Well, it's not helping." And he said, "Are you willing to step outside and talk to me for a little bit?" And I just said, "Yeah." So I walked outside with him, and he did 1, 2, and 3 with me right there. I didn't even know what was happening. He wasn't like, "We're going to work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous." He just starts asking me questions, and I don't even remember what these questions are. But he was slick, y'all. He was a pro. And he asked me the questions for 1, 2, and 3. And I answered them correctly, evidently, because he said, "I have this book for you. Would you be willing to read it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll read your stupid book." And he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna bring it back." He's like, "Just start out at the very beginning." And he's like, "Read through these lettered pages and then read to page 164. And I was like, 164? Like, okay, it's a weird number to stop at, but whatever. And so he brings me his book back. It's this book right here. This is my AA book now, and this thing is falling apart. That's why I'm still alive, okay? is this book is falling apart. I just soak this thing up any chance I get. So he brings it back, and I read it. It takes me 2 days. I just smash this book because I am desperate. I do not want to die. I don't. I'm ready to die, but I don't want to. I read his book, and I call him, and I'm like, I read your stupid book. And he's like, great, you ready for step 4? And I was like, well, what about 1, 2, and 3? And he's like, we did that on the porch. You ready for 4? And I'm like, okay. So this is what happened. I had a sponsor. I worked the steps. And then I helped somebody else. Like, it's really that simple. It's hard sometimes, but it's really that simple. And one, came to believe that a higher power greater than myself. No, sorry, just kidding. I'm all teary-eyed. I'm powerless. I am absolutely powerless over alcohol. If I had any power whatsoever, I would have never been in that bedroom with a gun in my mouth. Ever. I don't want to do those things. I don't want to have affairs. I have 30-something years of evidence that shows me how powerless I am over alcohol and drugs. My life became unmanageable. I'm making my daughter her last breakfast and giving her her last snuggle. Like that, if that's not unmanageable, I don't know what it is. And you guys have these examples, and they may not look exactly like mine, but we all have the same exact story. It's the same story, different situations, but it's the same story. If you're in this room and you're a real alcoholic, then this is you, right? Not to like call you out and be like, you. But I was incredibly powerless over alcohol. I still am. My life had become unmanageable. My life is not unmanageable today. I have some moments. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. My first example was being willing. Like, willing is sanity. I was willing to try something different. I was at that point where nothing else was working for me. And everything that I had tried, it just got me further and further and further and further and further down, to the point where I was so miserable that I wanted to die. So just even being willing that morning just to talk to him whenever he says, would you talk to me for a minute? And me just saying yes, like, to me, that's sanity. Like, I have just even that smidge to hold on to. If I can get that much, then I can keep going, right? So the third step, when it talks about care, first off, I was terrified to turn my will and my life over because I did not want to be like some pew jumping, Bible thumping, evangelist knocking on people's door. Hey, you need AA. Trust me. Listen, I see your car out here. It's 1,700 pieces, and you've been working on it for 9 months. Okay, you need it. You know what I mean? Like, I did not want to be that, and I was terrified that that's what God was going to make me. So the first thing that my sponsor had me do, and so I'm going to say my first sponsor was a man. I don't advocate for that. This is a man that I had built a relationship with over like 3 years. He was in his 60s. I was in my 30s. He had a conversation with me at the very beginning saying, if at any point this turns anything from sponsor-sponsee, meaning like father-daughter, romantic, anything like that, we immediately stop. You go find somebody else, I go find somebody else. We can continue to be friends, but these things, this sponsor-sponsee stuff stops. So that's where he was coming from. He had 36 years of sobriety, so I do not recommend being like, hey, he's cute. You want to be my sponsor? I think I'm making pizza tonight around midnight. WYD. Send. Don't do that. That's not what I'm saying. It's crossed my mind. Don't do that, though. So the first thing he had me do was create this concept, right? Because our book says that we can have this on our own like concept, right? So my God is still very biblical, but I needed a visual. What time are we? Huh? 20 minutes? 10. Oh, okay. All right. Speed version. I am speed. Okay. So, I am a super visual person. I really needed somebody that I could hang out with, and this like fire and brimstone God that I grew up with was like not cutting it. I do not want to hang out with that guy. Like, he's just going to condemn me. He's going to remind me of all the things I've done wrong my whole life, and there's never going to be an escape from it. And it's always going to be like, you're not good enough. And I already heard that shit in my head plenty of times. I don't want to hear it from me or from anybody else or from God. So I had to put this like visual in my head, and he's like, who could you hang out with? Who could you trust? Who could you talk to? So the Big Lebowski, anybody? The dude? Okay. So he's biblical. All right. So don't get me, about a year after I put this whole concept in my head, I learned that there's actually a thing called dudism. I was like, oh crap, everybody's gonna think I'm a crazy person. But anyways, that's who's in my head. That's the personality that I have in my head. That's who I see. So when I sit down to talk to God, or I'm driving in my car talking to God, like, I'm talking to him just exactly the way I am, you guys. And that's what I needed. I needed somebody, I feel like, you know, in the movie, like, he's pretty much the responsible party. And I'm like, I could trust this guy. I don't feel like he would steer me wrong. You know, he's going to help me decorate. He's going to make sure the rug really ties the room together. You know, like, this is somebody I could hang out with. And so that was my first piece for step 3. It took us about an hour to get to that. And then we started talking about care. And I'm like, okay, I feel like this guy could care about the things I care about. And we talked about like that mom, like not my mom or your mom or whatever, but like that perfect mom that like, I almost said Beaver Cleaver. June Cleaver. Close enough. Anyways, like that perfect mom, like when you're sick and you don't feel good, and like she comes in and she puts a cold rag on your forehead and like brings you some chicken broth and turns on your favorite show and like tucks you in, and like that mom, right? She's trying to care for me because she knows what I care about, and what I care about is getting back outside and like riding my bike through the neighborhood, and she's just doing the best she can to take care of me so I can get to that point. And she knows I don't like this stuff that I'm having to do right now. I don't want to lay in bed, and I don't want to like drink chicken broth. Like my tummy hurts. I don't feel good. But like, she's caring for me, right? That's what I think about whenever I over to the care of God. Like that's what I see in my head is like, he's caring for me. I'm sick. Huh? And I need to get better. You know what I mean? And that's what I see in my head. And then it's the Big Lebowski, but that's who's tucking me in and giving me soup. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, I can get down with this. I can do this. I can turn my will in my life over most of the time. Every now and then I like take it back and I'm like, wait, I have 17 more ideas. Hang on just a second. So I do my 17 ideas. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to give this back to you. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, 2 more ideas. Let me have it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a game that we play, and he laughs at me and I'm his favorite. But, you know, it's so much more relaxed and not as uptight as I thought it was going to be. Like, if you really just really sit down and think about this creator, like, there's so much good that he wants for me, you know? And like, this is my relationship today. And we joke around, and, you know, it's, you know, he's funny. He's super funny. And he's just somebody I could spend time with, you know what I mean? So I had to get to that point in 3. 4, I did not want to do this, but I did. Because again, I didn't want to die, right? So it was explained to me. There's a paragraph in here that tells us 3 or 4 different times that this is death, like in one paragraph. And I took that seriously, especially where I was whenever my last night that I had drank. And I went through and I wrote all these people that I'm pissed off about. I wrote down that, you know, these institutions like the law for drinking and driving. I was really upset about that. I'm a great drunk driver, and I feel like, you know, if I could do it successfully, you should probably just leave me alone. Like, you know, just hop behind me. If I make it home, we're good. And if I bump a car or something, then, you know, write me a ticket, whatever. But if I get home, we're good. I'm a great drunk driver. So, there was these things that I was just really upset about. I was mad about, the abusive relationship with my husband. And I was like, I don't feel like I deserve that. So I went through all these things. And then step 5, I was ready to, tell why I was the way I was. All these people are jackasses. And, if they would just do what I wanted, everything would be fine. And then I learned that I have a part. I'm glad that it says part, because there's some times that I want to take fault for the whole thing. And I have to remember it's just a part. It's just a part. And I'm getting everything that they've done out of my head. Get out. Everything they've done is out of my head. It's just me that I need to focus on. What was my part? A really hard pill for me to swallow was the abusive relationship. The first time that he hit me, he said, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. And I believed him, right? He hit me again. And then he said, I'll never do it again. At that point, I have a part. Okay? I could have left. As scary as that is, as broke as I would have been with a newborn baby, it still was my job to leave at that point. He's shown me. And I told my sponsor I did not like him. I do not like you for telling me that I should have left. But it was the truth. And I'm really grateful for the people that tell me the truth, even when I don't like it. 6 and 7 were huge. Whew, 7. I'm so glad y'all had that 7-step prayer right there. 7 helped me know that I was okay. So when ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. This is what I learned from this. Remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellow. First off, I can't tell God what's useful or not. That's not my job, because he's used me in a bunch of ways to help push other people forward. He's used other people's character defects to push me away and push me forward. So for me to say that something's not useful to God, like, I just need to get out of the way. That's not my job. And then from here to do your bidding. So what that told me is that I go out and I practice God's will, or what I think it is. I'm going to mess up. There's going to be days where I go do his will and they're like, whoa, that was not his will. Did you guys see what happened? You know what I mean? So I just do the best I can to go out and practice his will. If I'm going out and practicing his will, then he is moving these defects of character from me. I'm not even working on them. Dude, that's stressful. I'm not trying to focus on all the crap that is wrong with me. I need to focus on what is the next right thing for me to do. As God's will, I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to be an 86 to 88. Make sure that I'm thinking about my day. Make sure I'm pausing when I'm agitated. And when I don't do those things, I need to practice my 10th step, which is I go correct that stuff. I admit when I'm wrong, and I try to make an amends for that all day long. That's my 10th step, all day long. And then if I just do those 2 things, I feel like I'm doing his will. He'll direct me, he'll guide me, especially if I ask for it. And then he lets those defects of character slip away. And I'm not spending my time working on all these things that just bring me down. Oh my God. And then 8 and 9. Man, whenever I did my first 9, because I was sober for 2.5 years, and then I drank one night. I came back in the next day. I did not want to live like that. That was awful. And that's why I have 4 years now instead of all that. But 9, I just went. I tucked my tail and I just went and I started making my amends. And most of the people that I came across were like, just keep doing what you're doing. They're seeing some kind of change in me. I worked my steps my first time. I worked my steps in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, people were seeing some difference in me. And just to go out there and remove that fear. Like, I have these old chairs, and this going and doing the 9th step gave me like new chairs to sit in for whenever it came to confrontation and stuff like that. If I'm going, I'm getting out whatever you've done to me. I'm just looking at myself. like I have a purpose now, and I go to sleep at the end of the day feeling like an okay person, and okay is okay for me. I don't have to be the best. I don't have to be perfect. Okay is good enough for me today. I try to be better than that, but even okay is good enough. We talked about 10 and 11, 12. Okay. I would not be here if I did not have a sponsee. 100%. My job is to carry this message. And when I stop carrying the message, I start getting selfish. I start getting in my own head. I start getting sick again. And before I know it, boom, I am right back to either using food, because that's my favorite now. I don't want to drink. I don't want to use drugs, but I sure as hell want a cupcake, okay? And I don't want one, I want 7. 1 cupcake is too many, and 100's not enough. So I will use all these other things to change the way I feel. And after a certain amount of time, the food, the sex, the men, the shopping, the whatever, the being lazy, those things like stop working, and I start thinking about drinking again. And I don't want to go there. So I have to maintain this. And the biggest, best way for me to maintain this is working with somebody else. It does a few things for me. One, whenever I start working with a newcomer, the first thing that they start telling me about is what they're like right now. And it is a straight shot reminder back to what I was like when I came in. And that fresh little reminder is why I keep coming back here and working this program, because I do not want to be that again. But the other thing it does is it gives me, I get to share these horrible, awful things that have happened in my life. They're gifts now. My book tells me that they're gifts. This is depth and weight. So that's in your doctor's opinion too. Depth and weight is something that you and me can relate on. Everybody else out there doesn't know shit about alcoholism, 100%, until you've walked in my shoes, you've experienced it, and I can talk to you and I can tell you my story and you get me. You can tell me your story and I get you. And it's totally different than somebody else going, I think you have a problem with drinking. I'm like, screw you. Eat a whatever. It doesn't feel the same, but somebody in these rooms can tell me, hey, I think that you maybe need to make an amends for that. Hey, I've noticed you haven't been coming to meetings. Like, you guys can tell me that, and I go, ooh, you're right. But my mom tells me that, and I'm like, mind your business. You should probably go to a meeting. No, I'm just kidding. My mom is really cool today, and we have a great relationship because of this program too. Your family is not guaranteed to come back to you, and those relationships are not guaranteed to be wonderful, but when it does happen, it's really cool. But if it wasn't for the new person walking through that door, which is why I come to the meeting, I love to share. Again, I love to hear the sound of my own voice, but when that new person walks through that door, that is my lifesaver. I am out in the ocean drowning, and when that person comes in, they're like my life raft. I cannot wait to talk to them. I cannot wait to tell them how I got out. And there's so many of us that don't ever make it out. Like, if you're sitting in this room today, you're fortunate. Because there's a whole bunch of us that either suicide, OD, or die in a hospital bed because we're so sick and our organs can't function anymore because we've poisoned ourselves so much. And that step 12, when all else fails, our book tells us when everything else isn't working with another alcoholic will. And that could be a phone call. That could be calling a sponsee. That could be going to the hospital and saying, hey, I'm from AA. Does anybody need to hear about this? And working with families. Families need Al-Anon. It's a family disease. And that's something that I feel like has gotten lost, is being a contact for the family too. It tells us how to work with a family, but a lot of us don't do that anymore. So I encourage you to work with families. I encourage you to keep coming to meetings so you can meet a newcomer. If you don't have a sponsor, raise your hand. So we have one girl here that doesn't have a sponsor. If anybody can sponsor, let's talk to her afterwards and get her some phone numbers. You're the most important person in this room today. And y'all that picked up 30 minutes. Hey, everybody, we're all important. I'll sit up here and talk forever, but I'm really grateful that you asked me to come in and speak today. This program saved my life 100%. I still have days where I don't get or understand what's going on, but I don't always get to understand everything. Sometimes my job is just to be quiet and wait. and just do the next right thing while I'm waiting, whether that's the dishes or go mow the old lady next door, mow her lawn or something. There's something for me to do to help somebody else to get outside of myself and stop worrying about my selfish bullshit, because I'll sit there in that for a really long time. But I live a new life today. And I just had 4 years on Monday, and my kid called me from her best friend's house in another town and said, "Hey, Mom." And I said, "Hey, I miss you." And she goes, "I miss you too. Do you know what today is?" And I said, "What's today?" She said, "It's your birthday." And that's so true, because I am reborn. I am reborn, and I get to be a mom to my little girl, and I don't have to snuggle her for the last time unless it's God willing. But it's not me anymore that's going to do that. It's something else in the world. So anyways, yeah. You 10 more minutes? Just kidding. Thank you, guys.